Welcome everyone back to the T.R.O.N podcast. This is your host, Rashad Woods. I have a very, very interesting person here with an incredibly inspiring story. I would like to welcome Miss Amira Nystrom. Thank you so much for joining me.
Thank you for having me.
It's a very big honor. I really appreciate it. So you have one of the more fascinating bios that I've had a chance to read about. It's hugely inspiring, and you've made it your cause to help others. Would you care to share your background a little bit with everyone, please?
Yeah. So I have had a bit of a crazy health journey, conquering things like severe Crohn's disease. I was able to heal from a brain surgery that had less than 1% chance of coming back as a fully functioning person. And it gave me a bit of an access to restart, reset, and create the life that I actually want. And I love that the brain surgery kind of gave me that opportunity. But I wanted to find a way too where I could help others reset and restart. And so, now I've became a hypnotist and coach and try to help people also restart their life and from whatever point they're at.
So before you got to this point in your life where you've done incredible work. I had a chance to check out what you do, and we'll get into that in a minute. But what were you doing before this that suddenly made you do this 180 and we're like, you know what, I'm going to take this path because this is the path of happiness and success? That's a pretty drastic. I've never really heard of a career like this.
No, I started with honestly working at Red Robin when I had my brain surgery, and I had like 5 different jobs. I was running around and I was a server, and my big dream was to become a bartender because that was the coolest thing in front of me. Like, I could do this next level thing in the world that I'm in. And then when I had the brain surgery, I decided to do something totally different. And so I just went to Maui and started a completely different life, and met some random person in the jungle that told me that I should create a business and create residual income. And I was like, oh, that's a good idea. And it took me on a bit of a journey. Just imagine this.
You literally went to like where volcanoes and mountains are in the jungle and met you can't make this up. That's awesome. Like, I've never heard anything like that. Like, I know I don't want to get too much in your personal life, but like when you told like in your inner circle of people, they probably thought that was the craziest thing in the world to do, right? Like, I'm going to pack my bags, I'm going to quote unquote find myself, right?
Yeah, exactly. Right. It's like they, especially having just recovered from brain surgery, they were all pretty concerned because, they were used to taking a lot of care of me, and they just couldn't do anything because I was just going to go to Maui and figure it out. So they're like, but can you take care of yourself? Are you good? My family and friends were definitely really concerned. But I felt good, and I was just on a journey to find, where am I supposed to be? Because this feels wrong. Whatever I'm in right now feels wrong. So let's go on an adventure and see where.
Okay, so you land in Maui, right? And so, you get there and you meet this person that tells you, hey, I'm on a spiritual journey. Clearly you were like-minded with this individual that you met, and you started transforming this into the business. So how did that come into turning into a business where, okay, I'm going to take the next step to make sure that this is something that's a lifestyle that I'm going to live and help others and have residual income and live off of this lifestyle?
Yeah, it started with just seeing that some people do things differently. I hadn't really seen that. I lived in Seattle, and so it's just hustle and bustle around me where everyone was on a rush somewhere, chasing something.
That's an awesome city.
Yeah. And I think with it being more expensive to live there and stuff, people have to work so hard to really make something of themselves. And so just having been around that, I thought, oh, this is what you're supposed to do. This is the thing that I should be doing too. And then when I went to Maui and I saw people that had a completely different perspective, I was like, oh, you're rich here if you have time. I've never heard of that.
right. And so and it's not a landlocked state, so it's a kind of like, even though I've never been there, but it's a country kind of unto itself, right? Like it's not
Yeah.
like you drive to Seattle and then XYZ amount of hours later you're in Oregon, or you drive up north, you're in Vancouver, right? This is a self-sustaining kind of area, I would imagine, right?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. It's a completely different mindset and a different world where where people just seem to make up their own reality. Like I kept
Yeah.
making friends with people who just they were building things, and then all of a sudden they created these giant yard games, and now that's their business, and they are successful doing that. So it's like you can just do anything. Like I met this one man he's called Coconut Glenn, and
Okay.
he told a cool story at a jungle pib, like or like a mini luau type thing. And he just told the story of when he was younger, he just wanted to make ice cream for people. And he's like, my parents thought this is ridiculous. You should become a doctor. You should, strive for something bigger than
Ice
that.
cream's $1 billion business, ladies and gentlemen, by the way.
Yeah, and then he did. He made a massive movement with coconut-based ice cream, and he's huge on Maui, like super successful at it. But
Wow.
listening to these stories where I looked at people in the eye, like it's different when you hear of a story like
Yeah,
somewhere out there. But I
of
was like,
course.
this man literally just committed to this path
Yeah,
and thoroughly succeeded. And I guess it invited in that thought process that,
for
oh,
sure.
I can do anything.
For
I
sure.
can just, yeah.
And the thing is, too, is that I think a lot of things are structured for people, right? Like you're supposed to post education, you're supposed to follow this path because this is what the image that's built for your, what's been kind of passed down from years and years. And when you had a
Yeah.
life altering experience like that, I think it put a lot in perspective. I haven't had
Hmm.
anything like that, but I think you probably, if I'm guessing, just listening to you, you realize how much way you wanted your life to go.
Yeah, exactly. Felt that there must be something real out there, and there
Right,
must be a
right.
way more, like a more real way to experience life. Like I couldn't justify when I went back into my serving job after the brain surgery, and I stood there as someone was having a full-blown meltdown that I forgot to bring her ranch for her flies. I was like, oh my God, what is this? Like,
Put
is
life's
this real
perspective,
life?
right?
It was just mind blowing to me. I was like, I cannot work this job anymore. This is not for me. I did not come back from the other side with a less than 1% chance to like justify why I forgot to bring this woman ranch. Like, I'm not doing it.
I don't mean to laugh, right? Like, I don't know, seriously, though. But I'm sure you probably like, ma'am, do you have any idea what I came back from?
I just like I couldn't even like go back to the table. My sister came up to me and she said, "Hey Amira, like you have a reputation in this restaurant to be like really good server, and it's a problem right now because you don't seem to care." And I was like, "I don't. I don't I don't care at all." She's like, "So all your tables are upset." And then she decided to run around and help me and be a good sister. And so but afterwards she's like, "We need to talk. That was ridiculous."
Yeah,
And I was
and
like,
that was the
there's
beginning of the end.
yeah, I was just like, I don't have it in me anymore. I don't care. You could not pay me anything to care to
Right.
do this any longer. And I didn't really have any savings either. So I just
Yeah.
went to Maui and like landed with a few $100s and
Yeah. Figured it out.
made, yeah, and then made some friends. And they're like, this is where the newcomers seem to pick up a job. And
Yeah, yeah,
like,
yeah,
okay,
yeah.
cool.
Right.
I need one of those.
For real.
Um, yeah.
Good for you. And so you land, and so I saw, like, you went through a lot too, right? With such a positive demeanor. So you went through
Hmm.
Crohn's disease. I have a buddy who has that, and it's a really debilitating illness. And I saw that you've
It's
been able
dark.
to manage that. Like,
Yeah.
so he's on a very strict diet because of that, right?
Yeah.
So I'm imagining that's somewhat similar to you. How did you figure out how to battle through that, and what foods do you eat to kind of make sure that that stays in remission?
Yeah, this is a crazy one because I was a bit of a world traveler. So I ended up in Madeira in Portugal, and they had
Okay.
some extra variant during COVID. And so we couldn't leave and I couldn't import medicine. I couldn't get any medicine there and then I couldn't ship it in and I couldn't leave to go get it. And for me, I had been on strict medicine for like 10 years of shots to like, and without the shots, I would crumble. And I had a few meltdowns a few nights in a row. And then I decided I've always wanted to heal myself naturally, like to heal my gut. So I don't know what to do, but I'm going to do all the research. And I just binged on videos and material online. And there's a lot of stuff that contradicts each other. So it's hard to know what to do. But what I learned is that the most important thing I learned is that we have to be active. So with Crohn's disease or with anything that's fighting us on the inside, like there's literally something that's like fighting with us and it's like trying to pull us down the hole. And so what I realized is I have to be a bit of a warrior with myself. Not a bit, actually. I have to be a full-blown warrior with myself and get myself active regularly. Like stagnation is one of the worst things with Crohn's disease or ulcerative colitis because it just kind of festers. And food-wise, the main thing was intermittent fasting changed my life a bit. So I realized that the gut's actually wanting to heal itself all the time. But when we put food in there, snacks, like there's such a snack culture now, but when you put food in, then those parts that were trying to heal themselves, like they prioritize processing the food. So I realized if I'm not eating, then my body is healing itself. And I never did like 24-hour fast, but I did. I started doing the 8-hour eating windows. And
my brother does that. You do the 60 and stuff like that.
Exactly. So that became my normal life. Like that's still my life because I can break that maybe a few times here and there and it's no problem and my Crohn's it doesn't flare up. But if I'm regularly doing what most people are doing, which is eating breakfast at 8 and snacking until like, 11 p.m. Like 100%. I could not do that.
100%.
Food wise, I think is gluten's not the easiest. Dairy's not the easiest. I tried to go vegetarian for a while, but it honestly made things worse for me. So I actually eat a ton of meat and a ton of cooked vegetables, a ton of potatoes and rice and broth and things like that. But it's just learning. Yeah, I have like endless knowledge on, what works with Crohn's. I don't know how much you want to go into.
No. And then, like you have such a fascinating story. I don't want to, stick down too much of anything, right? But I was just thinking of my buddy. He basically turned into a Presbyterian, right? So he can't, he's like, I avoid pizza, I eat lots of fish, and then I'm good. I'm like, yo, dude, this
fish is great.
Woo.
Yeah.
It's crazy. So, it's interesting. So talk about like hypnotherapy. Did I pronounce that right? Right.
Hypnotherapy.
And so that too. And then how did you become a retreat specialist? I imagine that probably happened in Maui. I'm just guessing. That's just my, humble opinion, but I don't want to step out of pocket if that's different. So tell me about those two and how that career kind of evolved for you.
The retreats world was kind of me looking for fun experiences that felt fun. And I was a traveler on a budget. So I was just volunteering at all the different retreats and events, like everything that sounded fun. I thought, well, they need extra people, maybe. Right, and so I would just pitch myself as a volunteer for as many events as possible, really. And then I just kind of learned how it went. And I would get randomly upgraded into paid positions just by being in the right place at the right time.
Absolutely.
And then I thought, I can do this myself. So I started hosting my own retreats. And I love them. I think it's powerful for people to step into. I guess it's me trying to give people the experience that I got when I went to Maui, where I could just go somewhere completely new and be around people I don't know and find some part of myself,
Just like on a sidebar, I know you talked obviously from Hawaii. It was crazy because there was this couple that went off the grid when they got married for their honeymoon. I think they went to Maui, I'm not sure. And they didn't bring their cell phones for 2 weeks, and they had no idea COVID happened during that time. Cause I was like, it was bonkers. They said they landed back home, and they were like, the world shut down. They knew nothing about it. And it's
Oh
like,
my
we're so
gosh.
wired into being on the internet and being like, that's a lifestyle that, you know, when you kind of pivot back to what you do for a living, what kind of client or person comes out there that you see at your retreats?
The last retreat I hosted had 22 people, so
Okay.
sold out, but it was 22 people that had
Yeah.
never left the United States, that had never had a passport, and that had never, and they came out to Mexico. So
Yeah.
to me, that was super cool to
Yeah.
be able to create this unique, because sometimes we have travel buddies and friends that we want to do cool shit with, but
Of course.
in reality, most people don't, you know? So
It's in
they,
their
they
heads.
end,
It's in their heads.
yeah, they're like, oh, I would like to do something cool, but I don't know how, or I don't know,
Right.
you know, there's too much doubt and fear and stuff. So what I found is all these, all these people came out, they don't know each other,
Yeah.
and we created a tribe in the jungle, and we were barefoot, and I put them through all these challenges of like ice baths and like temescals is like sweat lodges and
Okay.
different types of confrontational get to know yourself games.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
And I guess all to invite that warrior spirit to come
Right.
through of like, you know, when you sit in an ice bath, I don't know if you've done one,
No, I never
but
quite did. No.
it's
No. No.
like everything in your body says this is bad, you know? It's just like it feels so horrible and it feels like you're gonna die, but there's something that happens after that 30-second mark or the 1 minute mark where you relax into it and you're like, I'm a warrior.
Oh my goodness.
So
You know, it's awesome. You know, I've never done that, but I'm talking to somebody who does. You may make me do that. I think I'll probably start, like on a lower scale. You know what I mean? Like when I wash my hands cold and build myself up. I'm not diving completely into that yet.
yeah,
So,
that
so you do Maui. I saw you do Indonesia. I forgot the island that I looked it up and saw that it was at.
Bali.
Bali. Yes, yes. So like, how does so do you have to get with like the tourism industry for each respective country that you do that in order to host that?
It's different for each one. I normally work with someone local that
Yeah.
has those connects and that makes that happen. It's rarely a one-man operation,
Sure, sure.
yeah, it's normally making those connections that where we can make sure that we're also supporting them and that
Of
it's not
course.
just
Of
yeah.
course. So is it like your typical? So you have people who like, hey, you know, I'm sure there's probably even married couples that kind of life kind of got stagnated and kind of got routine, and they're like, hey, we need to
Mhm.
do something that kind of just says, let's get out of our shells for
Yeah.
a week or two to do something to reconnect or feel inspired in a way, right? I'm sure you get a
Mhm.
lot of that too, right? People who are burned out, etc.
Yeah. Yeah, I think what I'm passionate about with it is making people feel a bit alive again. Like even in the smallest ways, like on Maui when I lived in the jungle, I would hitchhike and I ended up in this, I know it's been an adventure, but I hitchhiked with this family
Really
and they were going to take me home. They're like, "Oh yeah, we'll drop you off." But they just looked a bit like some part of the energy felt a little
off.
tense, you know, and they're on their Maui vacation. How often do families do vacations like this, you know? So I was
Right,
like,
right, right, right.
I want to see. So I just kept talking to them and seeing if there was a way that I could figure out like what's happening in this car. And then towards the end, I said, why don't we just go to this cliff jumping spot? It's gorgeous. They're like, oh, my son has autism. And so you know, we have to do things a certain way. But he looked excited. And I was like, honestly, people with autism in particular tend to love it. And so I took
Right.
them to this gorgeous place outside in nature and the whole family came alive. They were cliff jumping and like laughing and
Oh
I
wow.
hadn't felt so it was just those moments, like those micro moments where you just decide to do something that makes
Okay.
you feel alive and it kind of like ripples throughout the family. But yeah,
I
I
thought
guess
that
the
story
big
was actually going in another direction, so I'm glad it turned out well. Because the way you were saying they were acting kind of funny, I'm like, oh god, don't tell me like you know.
no,
I'm like waiting for like the bad thing, so it ended well. So I'm glad that that was positive.
like polite to me, but just you can feel when bonds like relationships
Yeah.
or families when there's just tension. And
Right.
from my perspective, I was like, this doesn't need to be here. I was freshly out of brain surgery. I was like, this is odd. We must be able to have fun, right?
Oh my god. So I listed a couple questions because like to try to like this wasn't a conventional like job lookup that I could actually do. So I was like, I got to find out more about like hypnotherapy, right? So like, is there like a certification or like a qualification to be like that? I mean, not be like that, have that status to be called such.
Yeah, I think it's different state to state, but for me, I got certified in less than 6 months.
Mm-hmm.
And it's such a wild world of like being able to alter the things in your subconscious mind, you know? I guess most people are in these prisons of like, who should I be and what should I do and what does the world want from me? They see what they can become as like these tiny increments from their reality right now. And I guess what I've found with it is even for myself, like I had the brain surgery and it like shot me open, but stuff comes back. And so I started using hypnotherapy just on myself at first to expand. And I was like, I want more. Oh, what does that look like? Or I want to do more. And then, and now it's became a bit of a, passionate business.
That's odd. So did you have to read books? Like, I mean, do you do like Tai Chi, yoga, etc.? Is it kind of an all encompassing thing? So if somebody comes to a retreat and you're meeting you for the first time, first of all, before they go, is there some sort of qualification screen there to make sure this is right for them?
Yeah, we have calls before, like a few calls that are question and answer, and then a few calls that are just doing some exercises together. I've never personally had to say, you can't come to somebody.
Just curious.
I haven't, but I know with like my adventure company and Epic, that we have gotten people that book that are not so friendly on the phone, and I just tell them to go to a different company. I'm like, actually, we're sold out, but these guys are so awesome. But
positivity coming the entire time.
But with the retreats, I've never ran into somebody that I haven't wanted to work with. Prior to the retreat. I think it's all just as long as people are bringing a good energy and they're not, there's certain rules, obviously.
That's just, because I would think that, hey, is this right for you? Because maybe it's not for somebody. Maybe somebody making like an impulse decision and then suddenly you got them on the phone and, they don't call back because they're like, you know what? I kind of jumped the gun on thinking this was for me.
Yes, otherwise it's...
I don't think you'll be driving me in the middle of the jungle anytime soon, to be quite honest with you. I just got to keep it real. That's not going to be, I'm temperature controlled, like that's not happening.
Temperature control.
I like I'm just keeping it 100. I'm going to keep it 100, like the what's that, air, the controlled air, controlled heat, whatever you want to call that. I mean, nah. But I loved hearing you talk about it. And it's, me personally, it would take a lot,
Where are you based?
I'm based right outside of Detroit, Michigan, right? So
okay.
But there's a certain level of envy for a lifestyle like that. So that's why I thought it was one of the more fascinating stories that I had heard. I saw like hypnosis. It started like in like the 1700s. So just kind of back to your field a little bit. What are the misconceptions about like hypnosis, retreats, and things that people that you see movies, you see TV, and you think it's some kind of way, and then can you explain that?
Yeah, I think that with hypnosis, the main thing I've gotten from some people is I had this funny character that said, I don't believe I can be hypnotized. And I was like, well, then you are correct, sir. Because it's not mind control. It's not like we are going in and we're like, forcing them to do weird things. It's not something like that. It's like a deep meditation. Not everyone meditates, but it's basically you just go into a deeper part of yourself. And then the goal with the hypnosis that I do is I'll get like some info from them before of what is it they're working on, what do they want to solve, cure, handle. And then when we go into that like deep meditative state that we call a trance, then I just plug that in, and there's nothing coming through me that wasn't said by the person in the pre-process.
Sure.
But I think that the misconception is probably that the mind control is the funniest one I've heard. Like they're like, what's gonna happen to me? Am I gonna do something crazy? I'm like, I hope not.
Right,
most people just, they just sit there.
Like you're gonna watch them walk off a cliff because you like hypnotized them to do it, right? Like,
yeah, no,
right.
that's not how it works. And with retreats, I think, I mean, I don't know if people judge retreats to be anything like maybe bougie or something, but I don't know. I have no idea if people actually judge that one because I've only ever been around people who seem to love them. So
is there like physical challenges that you put? You said you put people through like physical challenges and things like that. So like, can you give me an example of some of the physical challenges you would put somebody through?
Yeah. The goal with the physical challenges is to feel like they can handle stuff. Like the particular retreats I've been doing lately, there's some that are like yoga, meditation, hypnosis retreats, and those are more peaceful, reset the nervous system type stuff. But the ones that I've been doing a lot of lately is the warrior retreats, and those are definitely have physical challenges, and they will do like
obstacle courses and things like that.
Sometimes, yeah. Okay. And sometimes but I would say like the Temescal, the last one we did actually had ayahuasca in it as well. Yeah. We don't normally, it's a plant medicine type thing. And we don't normally do retreats with that, but once in a while. So that's a challenge of its own. But it was, different challenges that when you sit in a sweat lodge for a really long time, there's just some part of like, we want to take you to that point that's like, I don't think I can handle this. And then have something else just like shoot through and you're like, I can handle anything. Bring it on, boss, partner, life.
Life. Yeah, exactly. It's a confidence builder because in all seriousness, I think a lot of people get browbeat and beat down by the day-to-day activities of life, right? Mm-hmm. And so by having something like that, it shows you and it opens your mind up, and you need that challenge. And it's not like a standard challenge either, right? Like it's not static, like I'm going to lift this weight or I'm going to go 15 minutes more on this treadmill, yay me, This is literally like breaking down every kind of part who you could be and then powering through it. And then you're seeing similar people as well too that could be at that same stage in life that you're at, and that's one wonderful thing, So is this year round? You do this is a year round. Oh, that's great. Yeah, because you have warm weather climates to do it in. That's awesome.
Yeah, all the time. As many retreats as I love it. Like 4 retreats a year, and
that's awesome.
It's the best thing to just kind of. Well, to form these little tribe pods, and we all keep up too. We just had a call yesterday and where we just check in, like, how's life going? And because also people go back to their worlds where they don't have so many of those like-minded connections. So keeping up and like, I guess having that sense of community can be powerful.
That's really cool.
Yeah.
When people go out there, would you recommend they're in some sort of physical condition before they put themselves through something like this? Because, oh my God.
It's different. It's different we had in the last one, the youngest be an 18-year-old guy, which I think is so cool that you're 18 and you're just like deciding right at the minimum age that you could join, that you want to go and like find your warrior spirit. That's amazing. And then the oldest we had was I believe he was in his 60s.
That's awesome.
For us, it doesn't really matter. I've seen 95-year-old people in the jungle. It's just like, who are they? Like, are they the ones if they're on walkers or wheelchairs? Probably not, but if they walk and if they're comfortable, but they might not do all the challenges. Like in the last one, we had a dance challenge too. Mm-hmm. Like we had people pick between doing a dance off or like the Fight Club challenge. They might not do Fight Club. I don't know.
Don't tell them, like, I'm obviously, like, God forbid somebody actually got like broken bone, but is it just like stimulated kind of things like that? I have no idea what a Fight Club challenge would be. You can't leave that on the vine, so to speak.
They do. So what we did is we had Muay Thai fighters come in and teach them how to do some cool stuff. And then after that, they would spar each other. And so they would pick, they would pick the level that they want to spar. So maybe they pick, someone says, oh, I want to spar at like 10% strength, or I want to spar at 30% strength. And then you kind of check.
That's dope.
And then some of them were more intense. They're like, I want to go 60. And so they wait for someone in the group to be like, oh, I want to go 60 too. We didn't go higher than that, but it felt for those guys that, you know, what we attracted in this retreat was people who were looking to feel like that maybe felt more stuck or disempowered before, and they were looking to feel that they can, you know, handle these things. And so when they did this, and they had never fought before,
anybody who says they can go at 60% with a Muay Thai fighter, you know, in their first sparring session, never fought before.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Full disclosure, you don't do that. You don't do that.
No, I would probably do maybe 20.
Easily. I take Muay Thai, so I know exactly. Yeah, you don't want to know. Like, you know, that's a horrible idea. But no, I mean, in the context, I'm just thinking in my head, like, yo, man, you really want to do that? But
but I think it's powerful, especially for like both for women and for men, to feel like, not that they want to, you know, run around hitting or kicking the world, but just to feel like they can, like to feel like they can defend themselves. I think it's so important. And for women too, I think a lot of women have a lot that's just kind of like suppressed. And so it's nice to just like get it out of our body. But yeah, so they would pick either Fight Club or a dance off, and we encourage them to choose whichever one scares them more. So some of the bigger buff guys, they were like, honestly, dancing scares me more. So so then they would do the dance part.
Yeah. Good for you. That's good for them.
But yeah, it's fun stuff.
That's really cool. That's really, how far off the grid are these locations? Like, it's like you land in the most, you know, vacation, and then there's the recommended area based upon Travelocity, etc. How far off are you from that area where you have your retreats?
We don't really ever do, I guess I don't really ever do anything that's in the cities or something. It's normally a bit off the grid, just because weird stuff happens. Like, one of the challenges is yelling, you know, so just if we're yelling in a city, like, I don't know what's going to happen. Are the cops going to come, like, think something's wrong, you know? So we have a yelling challenge where we just like, so we always try to do it a little bit outside of the city. Like, we have one coming up in Maui in June, and it is that one's pretty much in the middle of the jungle. And then the ones in Mexico are in this tiny town called Valladolid. So it's
This stuff. But yeah, I mean, who's going to go on a retreat just so you can stay downtown where cars and taxis are flying right past you and everything? So I got to tell you, you know, this has been one of the more interesting, because I have so many, because I can't even, it's so off the grid of what I would, you know, think of what's possible in life, right? Like, here you are in the jungle, right? And, you know, meeting new people, strangers. This is like some 1970s, like, hippie type stuff that just goes through my head, and it seems like a very peaceful lifestyle for you.
I'm a firm believer that, like, whoever we are is perfect somewhere. I think I've got my little world.
So it's, of course. What's the most fascinating place that you've been, you know, since you've traveled?
Maui's been my home for the last 10 years, and I'm obsessed with it, but it's also kind of mainstream. It seems like most people go to Hawaii. I think fascinating that's off the grid. I was just in Venezuela, and it was so cool. Like, only heard weird stuff online, but to be there, it was gorgeous, and the people are so kind, and like, just the most beautiful places. There's these islands called Los Roques, and they are just incredible, like magical sandbars with beach on both sides, and you're just walking down. It's gorgeous. Yeah.
Nice. How many languages
Just
do you
2,
speak?
but I mean, I normally try to learn a
How many?
word here and there, but I'm not the best at that one. Luckily,
Okay.
most of the world speaks English, but
Okay. Okay. See, I just was curious. I'm like, okay, she's been so many different places. Maybe she's learned,
just 2.
3, 4, 5 different languages as you've gone. Well, did you have any questions for me? I know that I've kind of picked your brain and been able to kind of figure out how your world works, and this has been one of the more fascinating interviews that I've had. And I'm honored and pleasured to
What's
have you
your
as
biggest
a
dream
guest.
right now?
Did you have anything you wanted to ask me? Make this podcast as successful as possible. I think the best part about it is that I got a chance to talk to people a lot smarter than me, right? And so when you start to look at what people do, I was never, the reason I call this a T.R.O.N podcast, and I've told this to a number of different people who have been guests. I'm not skilled enough to create something. Like, I can't code. I can't, work on cars. I'm not an electrician, I'm not a plumber. The one kind of gift that I kind of like started figuring out, like, what am I good at, was my head and, my kind of gift of gab. I like to know stuff. It came to the point where I felt like if I talked to smarter people, adventurous people, risk-taking people, that I could kind of find my niche when it came to something like this. And so that was where I finally said, what you said earlier on your show, kind of get out of your own head and just do it. My biggest concern was, what if this sucked? Right? What if I'm straight up, like, what if it sucked? You know what I mean? Like, like people say whatever they want. They don't want to suck at stuff, right? Like, you don't. You know what I mean? Like, so I was like, okay, well, and then people started saying, yo, your idea is fascinating. I was like, maybe I'm onto something here. Maybe people do think it's kind of fascinating. And so, because I'm not great at one particular thing,
well, I think that it's really cool when people are so honest about what if this sucks, because I just posted something like that on Instagram of like, we have to just stay resilient, because all of us have that thought. All of us have like this, oh, what if this isn't enough, or what if it doesn't, and so I think it's really cool when people are so 100%. Honest and they're just like, yeah.
And then you never do it. Yeah, then you never do it, right? Then you're just like, yeah, you know what? I'll just stay on this little, my sandbox over here, because, my voice, and it's funny because you won't find if you're good at a podcast or an interview until you actually start talking to people and getting feedback. Because what happens is you can fall in love with your own cooking, right? Which means like, oh, everything I taste is great. And then you serve it to somebody and they're like, this is awful, dude. What did you make, right? So I think I'm doing this okay because people have told me I'm doing okay, but I'm always looking for the next challenge.
I think that's so valuable because people don't also have, like, we all have our own network. And I think if some people don't have access to what's possible out there, like that used to be me, like I didn't even know podcasts were a thing. I don't know if they were back then, but there wasn't anyone telling me that you could do anything any differently. And so I think that people who do this, who start these podcasts and to try to bring voices into their world, just to share, it's not that it's wiser, cooler, whatever. It's just, it's different. And it's something that maybe inspires them to just, like, it invites in a thought that, oh, I could do something differently, And I think it's cool.
Yeah. It's easy to sit back and say, like, for me, like, talking to somebody like yourself and some of the other guests that I've had, it's not the conversation about the football game yesterday, right? And I'm not saying that there's not valuable, things to be had about being entertained by football or, movies, which I watch both of, and boxing and MMA. But like, this is something that's so, like, you have to really be in it to talk about it. Like I can come back and say, I talked to somebody who's a world traveler, hypnosis expert, and a retreat specialist. I mean, people can say that, and you do that for a living, right? And here's my time to talk to somebody who does that, right? Like, it's not a normal conversation that people would say they had.
Yeah.
So that's what fascinated me about this. It's really cool. So, outside of that, I don't have, any earth shattering, Oprah-like questions for you. I feel as though I've probably monopolized enough of your time. So unless you have anything else, it has been an absolute honor. Before you get off, though, I want people to be able to know how to reach. You obviously don't need me to get clients, but for this, the first time.
Now I think the
how can
best
people
thing
find Amira?
is on Instagram, Traveler of Love, because it's just where I keep the most fresh info of what's going on. Yeah.
For sure. For sure. For sure. For sure. So, anybody, that'll definitely be, a point of emphasis. And, you may even see me and my wife out there, but good luck getting her out there. So that's a different monster
That
right
would be
there when it
fun.
comes to getting her in the
Yeah.
jungle. So
Yeah,
they
thank
would
you
be.
for
But
having me.
Amira, thank you so much for your time. It's been an absolute pleasure. Of course.